Hello students, today we will discuss the first poem from Flamingo book of class plus 2, My Mother at 66. This poem is written by Kamla Das. First of all, we will discuss about the poem. This poem is written by Kamla Das. Kamla Das was born on 31st March 1934 in Malabar, Kerala. She is recognized as one of India's foremost poets. Her works are known for their originality. Kamla Das has published many novels and short stories in English and Malayalam. The main thing about her, she was open minded, transparent, and original in her thoughts. She was very much close to her native place. And in her poems, she explored the human relationship from the perspective of a woman as a daughter, as a wife, a mother, and as a beloved. In this poem, My Mother at 66, the beauty of this poem is that this poem was written by Kamla Das when she was 65 years old. And the title of this poem is My Mother at 66. This poem was published in 1999. It is a short poem. In this poem, the poetess describes the old age of her mother. Her mother is weak and pale. She comments on the feelings of pain which one feels for the aging parents. This poem is in a single thread of thought. There are some observations of the real world around, but they are connected with the main idea. The whole poem is in a single incomplete sentence. There is no full stop, no rhyme scheme. This poem is written in free verse. And in this poem, the poet wants to give us the messages that aging is an important phase of human life. We cannot wish away old age. It is a natural process. A person enters his childhood, experiences youth when he is full of energy and dreams to have luxury of life. Finally, he approaches his old age and encounters death. Relationship between people become stronger at every aspect of life, and they cannot bear separation due to aging. And the second thing the poet wants to convey through this poem, that children must spare some time for their elders, for their parents, because they deserve their love, time, and care. This message he wants to convey through this poem, My Mother at 66. Now, we will read the poem line to line and we will understand this poem. First of all, I will read the poem and you will listen the poem carefully. Driving from my parents' home to Cochin last Friday morning, I saw my mother beside me, doors open mouthed, her face Asian like that of a corpse, and realized with pain that she was as old as she looked, but soon put that thought away and looked out at young trees sprinting, the merry children spilling out of their homes. But after the airport's security check, standing a few yards away, I looked again at her, wan, pale, as a late winter's moon, and felt that old familiar ache, my childhood's fear. But at said was, "See you soon, Amma." All I did was smile and smile and smile. So, in this poem, in the first line, driving from my parents' home to Cochin, the poet Kamala Das says that she was going from her parents' home to Cochin airport by a car. She was driving that car last Friday morning. Last Friday morning, the poet was going to Cochin airport from her parents' home and she was driving a car. And that time, her mother was sitting beside her. On the way, she saw her mother's face. Her mother, who was sitting beside her, she noticed the face of her mother. Then what did she notice? Doors, open mouths, her face Asian like that of a corpse, and realized with pain that she was as old as she looked. Doze. Doze means to sleep lightly for a short time. So, mother who was sitting beside her, she was sleeping lightly for a short time. And that time, her mouth was open. Her face, Asian like that. Asian means very pale, like ash. That of a corpse. Corpse means dead body. And realized with pain that she was as old as she looked, but soon put the thought away. Her mother, who was sitting beside her, when she saw the face of her mother, she noticed that her mother was sleeping and her mouth was open. Then she noticed that her mother's face was looking pale and grey like ash. And it was looking like a dead body because there was no expression. Her mother's face was dull, pale, like a dead body. So she compared her mother's face with a corpse. When she saw her mother's face in that condition, realized with pain, and she was as old as she looked, but soon that thought away. When she noticed her mother in that condition, she noticed that her mother was old and she filled with pain. Why did she fill with pain? Because there was a fear in her mind. Her mother was old and any time she can lose her mother. So that thought disturbed her. When this thought came in her mind, she was disturbed. Then she tried to come out from that thought. She tried to divert that thought and she started to look outside from the window. She looked outside from the window and tried to divert her attention, try to put that thought away, and looked out at young trees sprinting. Sprinting means running. When she looked out, when she looked outside from the window, she found, she saw young trees sprinting, that the young trees were running. Trees were not running in actual, rather, that she was driving a car, and it seemed to her that the trees were sprinting, trees were running. The merry children spilling out of their homes. Merry children, merry means happy. Happy children were coming out from their homes. Spilling means coming out, rushing out. Here the poet used the sentence, the merry children spilling out. Here the poet wants to show the contrast between the old age and young age. Young age is full of happiness, joy and happiness. And on the other hand, old age is full of pain and sufferings. So she used this phrase in this poem. The merry children coming out of their homes. Now they reached at the airport. But after the airport security check, standing a few yards away, I looked again at her wan, pale face. Now they reached at the airport, and the poet went for security check and for other formalities. That time, her mother was standing at a few yards away. After security check, again she looked her mother's face, and that time she noticed that her mother's face was wan, pale. Wan means colorless. Her mother's face was wan, colorless. There was no color. Her mother's face was dull. And now she compared her mother's face as a late winter's moon. She says that her mother's face was looking like late winter's moon. Now, the question is, why did she compare her mother's face as a late winter's moon? Because late winter's moon is dull, colorless, grey, pale, and her mother's face was like that. So she compared her mother's face with late winter's moon. And the second thing was late winter's moon. Winter's moon, winter is season is in the end of the year, and old age is also the last phase of life. That is the reason she compared her mother's face as a late winter's moon and felt that familiar. And again, there was the fear of separation, fear of childhood again came in her mind. In the childhood, there is a fear in the child mind, the fear of separation. And that fear again came in her mind. She was caught by that fear. There was a fear that she was leaving her mother, and she was not sure whether she would be able to see her mother again. Because any time her mother can leave that body. So in this way, she wants to show. It may be that there was a fear. Perhaps there was a fear in her mind, in her unconscious mind, that about her own decay and death. Because at that time she was at the age of 65, and she highlighted that fear, that thing through that incident when her mother was 66 years old. But even then, she was full of fear to lose her mother. But even then, when she was parting from her mother, she said these words to her mother. But I said, I said, I see you soon, Amma. These were the parting words. And all I did was smile and smile and smile. And that time, when she was leaving her mother, there was smile on her face. You know, when do we smile? When we are happy, then we smile. But she was not happy. She was full of pain that time when she was leaving her mother. But even then, she was smiling. Then, what is the significance of her smile? And she was leaving her mother, and she said her mother that, see you soon, Amma. Even she knew that was not possible for her to come back soon. Even then, she said these words to her mother. Then, what is the significance of these words and that smile which she expressed at that time? What is the significance of this? We can say that that time she said, see you soon, Amma. By these words, she was trying to give moral support to her mother, and by smiling, she was trying to hide her fear. That is the significance of these parting words and her smile. So, in this way, she left her mother and she expressed through this poem about the compulsion of life. She highlighted that in this world, due to the compulsion of life, where one has to forego one relation for another due to the demands and social and personal obligations. You know that she noticed the condition of her mother, and she didn't want to go. She didn't want to leave her mother, but even then she left her mother because that time she had the responsibility of her husband and her children. Because of that relation, she had to leave her mother, even she didn't want to leave. So she highlighted that we have to forego one relation for another due to the demands and social and personal obligation. So through this, the poet wants to convey the message that we agree that the youth, the children are busy due to their duties, their personal liabilities, but even then, and sometimes they take care of their parents and their elders, but sometimes they are not able to take care when their elders, their parents need their care. So, through this poem, the poetess wants to give the message that we must spare some time, we must care, we must give love, care, and time to our parents and our elders. This message she wants to convey through this poem. I hope the poem is clear to you. Now we will discuss about the poetic devices which are used in this poem, My Mother at 66, because we have a question in exam on poetic devices. In this poem, the poet has used simile. Simile, simile. Uh, what is simile? Simile is a likeness between two things or events stated in a different way. You can say a simile is usually introduced by a word or comparison, such as like, so, as. In this poem, the phrase "wan pale as a late winter's moon." In this simile, the poetess emphasizes the weakness of her old mother. She is pale and weak. She is as pale as a late winter's moon. Her pale and dull face is compared with the pale and dull color of the moon in winter. Second, her face ashen like that of a corpse. In this simile, the poetess she emphasizes the weakness of her old mother. She says that her face was pale and grayish. It appears that she had lost all strength of her. The pale and greyish color of her mother's face is compared with the pale face of a dead body. So, in this way, these phrases are used as simile. Now, metaphor. In this poem, there is metaphor. Metaphor is, you can say metaphor or images or symbols also. Some images are used in this poem, just like married children spelling out of their homes. Next, personifications. Young trees sprinting. Young trees sprinting means the action of trees is compared, the action of non-living things is compared with living things. So there is personification. Repetition. I did was smile and smile. The repetition of the word smile at the end of the poem signifies the poet's hope of meeting her mother again. She puts on this smile on her face in order to cheer up her old mother, in order to give moral support to her mother. So, these were the poetic devices in this poem. Now, we will discuss the textual questions of this poem. The first question of this poem is, what is the kind of pain and ache that the poetess feels? The poetess mother, is weak and pale at the age of 66. Her face is pale, like that of a corpse, like that of a dead body. The poetess feels pain and ache at the sufferings and miseries of old age. And this thought that she might lose her mother brings pain to her. Due to that thought, she feels pain and ache. She filled with pain and ache. Second question is, why are the young trees described as sprinting? The poetess put her negative thoughts about her mother away and looked out of the car. She saw the young trees sprinting. The young trees are described as sprinting in order to contrast the active movement of the young trees with the inactive life of her old mother. So she used young trees sprinting. Third question is, why has the poet brought in the image of married children spilling out of their homes? The poetess has brought in the image of the married children spilling out of their homes in order to contrast the happy and active life of children with the sad and inactive life of her old mother. Means you can say to show the contrast between the young age and old age. Young age is full of joy and happiness, and old age is full of pain and sufferings. To show that contrast, she brought the image of the married children spilling out of their home. Next question is, why has the mother been compared to the late winter's moon? The mother has been compared to the late winter's moon because late winter moon is cold, dull, weak, and pale like her mother face. That is simile, and the poetess has compared her mother to the late winter's moon in order to emphasize, in order to show the cold, dull, weak, and pale life of her mother. Because late winter's moon is also dull, weak, colorless, like her mother face. The last question is, what do the parting words of the poet and her smile signify? What is the significance of her parting words and her smile? The parting words were, see you soon, Amma. And her smile signify the poetess' hope of meeting her mother again, even though her smile is forced. She does not seem to believe what she says. She was saying to her mother that see you soon, Amma. But she was not sure that she will come back soon to meet her mother. Even then, she said these words to her mother because she wanted to give moral support to her mother. And she was full of pain that time, even then, she was smiling. By doing so, she was trying to hide her fear. So, in this way, we discussed all the textual questions. Thank you. Have a nice day.